And then after the cabin leak checks, then they will finally close the last abort system hatch. So again, chugging along in the countdown, really excited to, again, continue to hear the crew's voice inside Orion, stepping through all the procedures.
Yes, it's exciting to hear them making progress, right? It's all good news hearing the crew talk to the ground and working together to get to the launch.
And what I think is really cool is that this is the first time NASA is going to have astronauts in low Earth orbit, but also in deep space at the moon. So here's a message from some of the crew aboard the International Space Station right now.
Hello, Megan, and a big hello to everyone around the world counting down together to the launch of this historic flight test. If we weren't in microgravity, we would also be on the edge of our seats.
Here on the International Space Station, all of us are honored to have the chance to wish our fellow explorers Godspeed. Throughout human history, the moon has sparked our imagination, curiosity, and wonder. With our return to the moon, we're not only going to be learning about its history, the history of our solar system and of our planet, but also about our place in the cosmos.
We are so proud of the Artemis team and so excited. Countdown continues.
Oh, I love that so much. I just love seeing them there. And again, you have to remember the International Space Station is an orbiting lab. We learn so much there, and we're going to learn so much more from Artemis 2, because this isn't just a test flight. It's an opportunity to learn more about the moon, deep space, and how humans can live and work so far from home. So here are some of the science objectives that NASA hopes to accomplish with Artemis 2.
Artemis 2 is our return of humans to the moon, flying around the moon on board Orion. But along with that, we're doing a lot of great science.
One of the exciting things about the Artemis missions to the moon is that science is actually a fundamental pillar of why we explore, why we're going, what we're doing in Artemis.
I think it's incredibly exciting that not only are we testing the vehicle, but we're testing science on board. Science where the astronauts are conducting experiments, science riding along with the astronauts. We have astronauts looking outside the window and really observing the lunar surface.
It will help us understand the deep space environment. It will help us understand how that environment affects our astronauts, our systems, and life in general.
So deep space is a challenge for us because you have to leave Earth's protective magnetic field. Here in low Earth orbit, the crew members are protected from some of the harmful radiation. Going to the moon, they'll no longer be protected, so they'll have a higher radiation exposure.
Much like Artemis 1, we have so many radiation sensors and detectors that are inside the capsule so that we can fully understand and appreciate the radiation environment for protecting our astronauts. In my hand here, I'm holding a tissue chip model. This is the exact design that's going to be flying alongside the astronauts. We'll be collecting samples from each of the crew members, and we can make these organ chips out of the astronauts themselves. So every crew member will have their own avatar on board, and then upon return, we can evaluate that deep space radiation environment and what that compares to the astronaut themselves. Not only are they going to help change the course of medicine for the astronauts, but revolutionizing that on Earth as well.
We're looking at sleep, we're looking at team dynamics, we're looking at how you interact with the environment. We're also looking at the immune system, so what are the biomarkers? We're using saliva as a method to study hormones and different things in your body that may change during a mission like this. And then finally, how do we function after microgravity, being close to the moon, then returning to Earth.
Which will ultimately help us achieve our goal of getting humans to Mars.
And then on top of that, we have an opportunity to look at the moon from deep space on the far side for the first time in over 50 years.
Having human eyeballs and brains back around the moon is going to unlock a new generation of lunar science discovery. The human eyeball is capable of taking in so much data in just a split second. They'll be able to tackle impact history, volcanic history. They'll be able to look at how the albedo, or kind of the shade and hue of the moon and the color of the moon, can tell us something about how that terrain evolved over time. We're integrating science in ways that have never been integrating science in ways that have never been integrated into human exploration before. We have a front room mission control flight controller position called the science officer. We have a brand new science back room where it's basically our brain trust of lunar scientists and geologists supporting the crews of the future. And Artemis 2 will allow us to really test how this works so that future missions are really set up for success.
We'll also be deploying some CubeSats. They're small shoebox-sized spacecraft of their own. They're each provided by another country, one of our partners. As they conduct their research, they'll complement what we are doing at the moon with Orion.
It is so incredibly exciting to be a part of this mission.
And it has been, really one of the privileges of a lifetime.
I can see the work I'm doing benefit crew members right now and benefit the crew members in the future. So it's incredibly exciting and it's very rewarding.
As this rocket launches humanity off of the Earth, we'll be setting the stage through our science to prepare humanity to leave Earth and explore the solar system.
And what we learn during this and future Artemis missions to the moon will eventually get us to Mars. Here's Jasmine Hopkins again, now with Nikki Fox, Associate Administrator of NASA's Science Mission Directorate.
Thanks so much, Megan. Yes, we're back on the balcony now, joined by Dr. Nikki Fox. Nikki, in this nearly 10-day mission, we are covering a lot of science from CubeSats to tissue chips. What are you most looking forward to learning?
Oh my goodness. I think for me, the most exciting thing is actually being able to interact with the crew while they are flying, doing this historic journey on the far side of the moon. They are going to be seeing pieces of the moon that no human eyes have seen before, which is really spectacular. It's going to be an interesting trajectory. Some of it is in darkness. Then at the terminator, so in darkness, they'll be able to look for like impact flashes and things when micrometeorites pummel that poor moon. And then at the terminator, they can see shadows and interesting things, which kind of gives you depth perception. And then, of course, in the sunlit, picking out everyone's favorite craters. Also, if we launch today or tomorrow, they will see a total solar eclipse from the Orion capsule. How cool is that?
That is very cool. We are thrilled for this Artemis 2 crew to be able to see the moon in a way that we've never seen before. What is so unique about that far side? Why are we going there?
I mean, honestly, it's just, it is unique. It's very different to the near side of the moon. The actual sort of terrain, the morphology, it's very, very different. And so it will be very exciting to see that as we're going past that.
Absolutely. And Nikki, we are performing a lot of science at the moon this year, actually, not just Artemis 2. Can you speak to the commercial lunar landers we're planning to send?
Yes, we are very, very proud of our commercial partners as they take our payloads for us to the lunar surface. And very excited. Next one up is Blue Origin's Blue Moon Mark 1 going. It's got some science on it. It's got the scalps that went on the Blue Ghost. So we'll be able to sort of look at that plume as it's coming down onto the lunar surface, and then also the laser retroreflector that will be the array that's up there too. So even on that first test flight, packing it with science as much as we can.
Wow, Nikki, so much science. It's hard to keep track of everything. But the unique thing about Artemis 2 is we're sending crew. Can you speak to the importance of the human element of science?
Absolutely. I mean, we can program, like we do with our beautiful rovers on Mars, we can program them to do certain things, and it's what we think we need them to do. When you have an astronaut up there, they can make that sort of like really unique split-second decision. The thing I'm most looking forward to is when they think they're going to be looking here, is hearing one of them say, "Oh my goodness, look over there." And I think that's just incredible about how we do that. Also, flying our tissue chips with the astronauts, our Avatar experiment. Here we go, Avatar.
Oh, wow, look at that.
And that's got the tissue chips samples that matched to the crew. Mm-hmm. So we'll be able to monitor the effects of microgravity and radiation on that human tissue as we prepare for more and more missions to the moon for longer and longer durations, right, and then off to Mars.
Wow, Nikki, so much science ahead of us. But first, we have to launch. Thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you so much. Go Artemis.
Oh, of course, go Artemis. And with that, let's turn it back over to the countdown with NASA's Megan Cruz.
Nikki is so fun. She has so much energy and so much passion about the science. And again, yeah, it's just so important to remember that so much science is happening with this mission. It's not just test out the hardware and the life support systems.
Yeah, can't necessarily pick out. And so that's why we're sending humans, but also we're not just doing the lunar observations. The Avatar, like that's a really cool experiment. You know, they took blood samples from the crew and then they used those stem cells to make bone marrow and create those little Avatar chips, which is like,
impressive.
feels like scientific, you know, sci-fi movie stuff. But, you know, we're going to look at radiation. We're going to look at all sorts of different scientific experiments. You know, we got the little CubeSats. We're going to go look at space weather. Lots going on.
Yeah, even collecting some of the astronauts' saliva, you can learn a lot about the body through the saliva. So just really a lot in a small amount of time in a small capsule.
Yeah, you know, scientific discovery. That's why we go back to the moon.
Yeah. And so, again, her energy just so, oh my God, I can't find the words. So
wonderful.
Awesome. Yeah. I don't know why I couldn't find the word. So anyway, yeah, just really, again, thank you, Dr. Nikki Fox and Jasmine. And so, Nicole, what about answering more questions?
Let's do it.
Okay, great. First one, what was the word I was trying to get at? No, I'm kidding. Let's have the first question up on the screen now. I know we got him. I see him being asked.
And CDR OT Sierra and Earth 1.
Go.
For your awareness, scrubber cycling is about to be restarted.
Integrity copies.
All right, let's try that again. Can we get the next social question, please? What are the G-forces experienced by the Artemis astronauts during launch and reentry?
Ooh, you know, these are actually pretty similar to, you know, a Dragon launch or a shuttle launch. You know, we have to accelerate to get out of the Earth's atmosphere. And then, you know, we talked about the secondary burns that they will do to get away from Earth. But, you know, for me personally, it kind of felt like we got slingshotted off the Earth is how I like to describe it. So, you know, you get set back in your seat and the G forces are into your chest.
CDR OT Sierra and Earth 1.
Go ahead.
Moon leak check complete. The cabin is going to be vented to flight pressure momentarily.
Integrity copies.
That's fantastic news.
Yeah.
Again, so the spacecraft is holding pressure as expected, and so now they will depressurize it, which will take about 6 to 8 minutes. Exciting.
Yes. Yeah.
Go ahead, Nicole.
Like we talked about, continuing to march towards the launch. Yeah, so the G-forces are into your chest, and it's kind of a slow build, and you can get all the way up to 4.5 Gs into the chest during the launch. And often they have to back off on the thrust a little bit so that you don't get too high in the G-forces. And especially as we go through kind of max Q or that max aerodynamic force, so as they get through the thicker parts of the atmosphere. And then very similar G-forces on the way home. So slow, steady build up to about 4.5 Gs as the rocket actually decelerates. You know, you heard in one of the packages, when they come back, they're going to be going 7 miles a second.
Gosh, that's
and
incredible.
So you have to slow down somehow, and to do that, you have to actually, you know, when you brake in a car, you feel those G-forces. And so for the astronauts, it'll just be, again, into the chest based on the orientation.
Great. Thank you so much for that answer, Nicole, and for that question. We're going to continue to try to take as many as possible. Again, you know how to send them to us at NASA Artemis. But now we again have another question for you, for our audience. We want to know, what part of Artemis 2 are you most excited for? Liftoff, Earth views from Orion, lunar flyby, or splashdown? Tell us again on NASA's Instagram or Twitch accounts, and we'll share your answers a little later in the broadcast.
That's a tough one. I don't know what my answer would be.
I know. I don't know either. I'm excited for it all, but that's a cop-out. All right, now let's head back over to Banana Creek. Again, the crowds there, really excited. People coming from all over the country, from around the world. Why don't we get another check with Leah Martin to see who she's caught up with now?
Well, Megan, we were a little while ago talking to some students from around the globe. Today, we're actually talking to some local students who are from right here, locally, Merritt Island in Titusville. We talk a lot about the Artemis generation and about the students who are going to become the next generation of dreamers, of engineers, of scientists and technologists. And I'm actually standing with a group of those students here today. Our local high school has actually implemented a really neat new program in the spirit of being able to create these pipelines for employment and engagement. Can you tell me a little bit about what Merritt Island High School is doing?
Sure. Well, this is a new program, first of its kind here at Florida. And basically what we're studying is astronautics and aviation, kind of blended the two together. We have flight simulators in our lab, but students are also learning about engineering, aerospace engineering, and we're trying to make all kinds of pathways available for them, trying to give them opportunities to see which pathway they might want to be interested in. So, yeah, it's just a great opportunity for them to learn about space. We just finished doing a whole model rocket build where the students took CAD software, developed their own rockets, put them together, and launched them right from our school. So it was very exciting.
Incredible. And then another local high school, Titusville, you guys also have a similar but slightly different program.
Yes, we do space mechatronics with advanced manufacturing, preparing students to build and manufacture things to automate, do automation to build things on Mars and things like that, or locally too.
Now, you told me that you were actually trying to figure out a little bit what you want to do when you're done your freshman in high school. What things are you learning in your class here that are really kind of tweaking your interest in the aeronautics field?
So we're building a lot of things with like metal and how we're supposed to do it on the rockets. We're also doing computer programming, which would help with NASA and like programming and coding.
Absolutely. And you were actually telling me that I think were telling me that you're interested in becoming a pilot. We talked a little bit about the pilot who is on board the rocket right now. How is this program preparing you for your future?
I mean, it's teaching me everything that I know about aviation, and it's really inspiring that I get to learn it in a classroom, like locally as well. It's amazing. I love it.
And then you were also telling me you're taking this class. What's the most interesting thing you've learned?
I really like the whole design part of it, like actually like engineering, like because I want to be an engineer. Engineering the products we use when we build stuff. That's definitely my favorite part, learning how to use those kind of softwares.
Absolutely. Well, Megan, when they're seasoned NASA employees, you'll be able to say that you saw them here first when they were still in high school. Back to you at the desk.
I can also say that they have fans. Nicole Ayers here. As soon as that girl said that she wants to be a pilot, Nicole went, yeah, why is that something that's so thrilling for you to hear?
I mean, I love when kids in high school have goals and they set their goals high and they want to go do something. You know, the kid who wanted to be an engineer or a pilot, like, I love that. You know, find something that you're passionate about, go work hard at it, and go get good at it.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah, and speaking of passion, I mean, we definitely have a whole bunch of people here passionate about what NASA is doing here. Again, the lawn behind us just filled with media from around the world, making sure that they can help tell our story to everyone who is interested in hearing it. So back here in Florida, of course, we have NASA leadership also keeping a close eye on launch operations. Let's go now to Jasmine Hopkins, who is standing by with Lori Glaze, Acting Associate Administrator of NASA's Exploration Systems Development.
Thanks so much, Megan. Yeah, we're honored to welcome Dr. Lori Glaze to the balcony now. Lori, this is our very first time having crew on an Artemis mission. How does that feel, and how does that change our overall approach to the mission?
It's a really good question, and it really came home today when we were watching the crew walk out, and then we saw them get into their van and go out to the pad, and we've been watching them getting into the crew module. And so we've really put an enormous amount of rigor into assuring the safety of our crew. One of the most important things on this mission, different from Artemis 1, is we now have environmental controls and life support systems. One of the most important things we're going to do on this mission is test those out and make sure that we can keep our crew healthy and safe throughout their mission. We also on this mission have an activated launch abort system, which we had the system for Artemis 1, but it wasn't active. But we definitely had that active on this mission. We want the ability, again, if something goes wrong, to be able to have that ability to abort and get them back to the ground, again, safe.
Absolutely, Lori. I mean, as you're driving home, safety is paramount here at NASA, and your program is responsible for all of these Artemis elements. We have the Space Launch System, Orion, ground systems. So how do you get everybody cohesively on the same page for a day like launch?
And that's a great question, and it's really been wonderful to watch our teams working together. We have the ground systems, which are kind of the bookends of our mission. The ground systems help prepare us to get the rocket ready to take off. They're doing all of the loading of the tanks right now and getting the crew into Orion. And then at the back end, they'll be there to recover the crew when they land in the ocean. But they know that their job is to make sure that that rocket is ready to go and that the crew module is ready to go. And then the rocket itself, the space launch systems, they know that their job is to deliver the crew module to the right point in space so that they can conduct their mission. And then again, they have to make sure that everything is ready, that they set them on the trajectory that is going to bring them around the moon and set them up to land in the right place in the Pacific Ocean. And that's their job, and they know how important that is. And they have to work closely with Orion, which again, they also have to work with all the other teams to make sure that everything's working together. And then on top of that, our flight operations teams, all the people on the ground, they're all working together. They know this mission doesn't work unless every single part of the mission works.
Right. Lori, there are so many things that have to work together today. We can't wait to see what happens next. Thank you so much for being here.
It's my pleasure. Thank you.
Of course. And with that, let's take it back to the countdown with NASA's Megan Cruz.
Yeah, and speaking of the countdown, 1 hour, 59 minutes and counting until the opening of our 2-hour launch window at 6:24 p.m. Eastern Time. This is a shot of Jetty Park. It's a nearby popular viewing location of rocket launches, and it is so great to see how many people are here. I mean, this is a Wednesday. Like, people had to take time off of school and off of work, but it's something that they felt like they wanted to do, to be here.
Yeah, I think just based on the chatter on the airplane ride yesterday, half of my airplane ride
Oh, no
here
way,
was
really?
they were coming to see the launch. You know, everybody's excited and traveling from all over the world to come see this launch.
And it really is a great day. We had some sprinkles here in the crowd, but for the most part, I mean, it's just a beautiful day to witness history.
It is, yeah, you know, a little bit of sprinkles, but for the most part, the clouds are staying away, and you can see the blue sky behind us, so hoping for good weather in a couple hours.
Absolutely. And so Dr. Lori Glaze mentioned what we learned from the Artemis II mission helps pave the way to sustained human presence on the lunar surface. So what are the objectives of this mission to eventually accomplish that? Let's check in with Gary in Mission Control for more.
Thank you, Megan. Yes, the Ascent teams are here in Mission Control Houston, working through their steps to prepare for a go for launch. Right up here on the front board, we're watching the teams in the White Room work through their checklist and closing the hatch as we verify ours, working as one NASA team. What Dr. Glaze said about working across the teams throughout the nation is true. It takes one NASA team to bring everything together and accomplish the mission objectives. The Artemis II is designed as the first crewed test flight of NASA's Artemis campaign, sending astronauts into lunar space to validate systems, operations, and human performance ahead of a more complex lunar landing missions. NASA has identified an extensive list of mission and flight test objectives that serve as a checklist to verify the capabilities needed to land humans on the moon. For the Artemis II mission, there are 5 overarching priorities that cover the mission and flight test objectives. First is, of course, the crew. As the first crewed mission inside the Orion spacecraft, this mission serves to demonstrate the capability of safely sustain the flight crew throughout the mission, including launch, the deep space component, and return. Number 2 is systems. This mission brings it all together to validate the performance of all ground and flight systems needed for a long-term lunar campaign, from launch infrastructure to spacecraft operations in deep space. Third is hardware and data. We'll be gathering performance data as much as possible over the Deep Space Network, but we also aim to retrieve onboard data and hardware after splashdown to gather additional insight and improve future Artemis missions. Fourth is emergency operations. The crew and flight control team will be testing emergency systems such as abort procedures, rescue operations, and contingency responses. During the flight, astronauts will rehearse a number of these procedures to ensure that in the event of a real emergency, the planned procedures and operations are sound. And finally, there's subsystem validation. Engineers will be verifying subsystems across the board to ensure reliability across life support, propulsion, avionics, and navigation systems aboard the Orion spacecraft. Human spaceflight is a complicated endeavor that requires precision and confidence across all disciplines. You may hear the phrase, human spaceflight is the greatest team sport, a few times in today's coverage, and it's absolutely true. Not only does it need mastery of specific components, but the integration extends across thousands of people and facilities around the world to come together and make it all work. A lot of the work from many people has led to this moment, a rocket at the pad with humans on board, ready to put everything we worked for to the test. I'm certainly excited about it. The teams here in this room are looking forward to supporting the mission, and I hope those watching are as excited as we are. We are following the countdown here in Mission Control Houston. Everything continues to look good, now inside 2 hours from the beginning of the launch window. With that, I will send it back over to you, Megan and Nicole.
Hey, Gary, thank you so much. We are getting word that the launch team is working something that we would like to give you an update on, so let's get on over to Daryl.
All right, thank you, Megan, and we are live in Firing Room 1 here at the Launch Control Complex. Yes, we are currently not working any constraints with regards to the rocket or the ground systems. But the launch team has been made aware of an issue that the range is working. And currently they're monitoring that work that is going on over at the range. We understand that that issue is related to the flight termination system. Now, the flight termination system, just to give you a quick explainer, every rocket has a flight termination system. It's the system that the Eastern Range here uses in order to send a destruct signal to a rocket in case it veers off path. So it's a very critical, important safety component in terms of how the range keeps the public safe here. We understand that the flight termination system, they're working an issue. And so as they continue to work that issue, they've asked for some assistance from the launch team to help verify some of the work that they're doing on their FTS system. And this is where it gets a pretty unique situation here. The assistance they've asked for is to verify what's going on with their system. They want to check it to see that the work they're doing is okay. And in order to do that, the FTS console operator inside the firing room has been asked to help them verify it. And the way that they're going to do that, and the solution that he proposed to check and verify the system with the launch director, and she gave the approval, is to go get a piece of heritage equipment from inside the VAB that was used during the space shuttle program. And this equipment is able to receive commands by the range through the flight termination system. And so with this piece of equipment, this console operator who works FTS was granted permission to go over to the VAB next door and get this equipment that he's very much aware of and used during the space shuttle era. And so that is in work right now. The bottom line of all this is, at this moment, the range is no-go. But that is not stopping us from moving forward in the countdown. We can continue to process and work the countdown. The closeout crew will continue to do their work, and the launch team will continue to do their work as well. But we'll keep you updated on what happens in regards to, as far as my understanding goes, a pretty unique situation here with trying to bring resolution and kind of help out the situation that we're seeing at the range right now. And that's the latest here from the firing room. We'll send it back to Megan and Nicole out the host desk.
Thank you, Daryl. Yes, very unique, but I think it speaks to the ingenuity of this team, right? To say, hey, we have this equipment at the VAB. Why don't we leverage it to try to solve this issue and work it?
Yeah, what a great example of human creativity, right? We know this thing exists. Let's go solve this problem. We have time, like Daryl said, we're going to continue to march down the countdown. So we'll continue to get the rocket and the crew ready, but we still have that 2-hour window. So in the meantime, let's try to figure out what's happening with the range. And
speaking of the range, what is the range for people who might not watch rocket launches with us often?
Sure, yeah. So anytime that you launch a rocket, you have to clear the airspace in the launch corridor, so where the rocket's flight path is going to go, you have to make sure that that whole airspace is clear. And so we actually have assets, the Space Force helps us out with this one, but, we want to make sure that there aren't airplanes in the way and there aren't other, maritime assets in the way or things like that. So that there's a whole group of people. We talked to, actually, Gary said it great, right? It's a huge team sport. And so there's a whole group here on the ground that is monitoring that launch corridor to make sure it's clear and ready to go. And so if they're having issues, then we definitely can't launch this rocket. We don't want to launch blind into a corridor that we can't see.
Yeah, because as Daryl said, I mean, it is very important, the flight termination system.